Good morning, everybody. I am long overdue for another show, so I'm back. Had a busy few months, as some of you may have heard, all in a good way, of course. But yeah, I just needed to get back in the saddle and just pick a certain time each week that I could commit to do a show, whether it's a show with Danny about the affiliates, a show about what's going on in CrossFit Games world, show about what's happening with jump ship training, all that stuff. We're just going to do it, or I'm going to do it mostly Thursdays at this time. So this is 7 a.m. my time, and that changes depending on daylight savings and where you are around the world. But this is the hour that I'm going to be doing it. What's happening, Corey? I'm back. I'm going to be bringing on guests and other things too. I have a whole bunch of other, I mean, they're all fitness related topics, but a whole bunch of things I want to talk about. And so I'm going to bring people on that can fit this hour. And once a week, I can pretty much commit to this show. So this is going to be my big update show, everything that's been happening basically since January. And yeah, filling you guys in. We're gonna watch one video today about Dave Castro's old garage gym. We'll talk about what you might need to have a solid outfitted garage to maximize your fitness. Corey, glad to be back. Thank you. Corey with the K. Thanks, buddy. All right. Yeah, we're gonna dive right into some fun stuff here. Let me share this. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is an old video. Surprise, surprise. I'm bringing up old videos.
Here, my gym, and the rest, everything else for my normal garage.
This is like 13 years ago.
The thing is with my gym, I like to have everything in its place, and everything's here for a reason. Some of the cool things I had,
this doesn't look like Dave's gym from what we've seen recently in the last couple of years, but this is
from the floor and up.
I just thought it was a cool video. It's two-parter.
But it's something to train on. And obviously, when training on something like this, you're doing feetless rope climbs. Most of the time, I'll do feetless and L rope climbs. These wooden rings are
so having a rope like that in your gym, like any version of a rope, even if you hang it from a rig, is like really great. Pulling from a rope is a little bit different than any other pulling variation, so it's a cool thing to have. Rope rings.
Much better than the plastic rings or some of the other options out there. They've just got a really
We're going to get to the funny part in all this here shortly. And it's not the video, it's the comments.
And not hit the ceiling, so that works out really well for me.
But the game standard was to have to jump up, and clearly you can't jump up.
No, I can't, and that's fine. I'm not a games athlete, and I probably never will be. So this works out fine for me for my goals and what I need to do. This matting here, this is actually from the 09 games. This is what Regipol gave us, and I recently went up there and cut some to bring back down to fit this area, and I really like it.
Rambo, I can touch on the Misfit topic later on in the show if you're curious. We'll keep it. We'll keep it brief, but I'll get into it a little bit.
It works well for that, and also obviously works well for dropping weight.
All right, we're gonna keep going here. I just want to show you guys some of this stuff.
For all my bars, got some small bars. You just push that and release. I also know a lot of people don't like these with the little pin in here. Pre and post workout. But I use this post on those days a lot.
Dave's a big fan of the reverse hyper. I wonder if he still uses it. Does anyone have reverse hypers in their gym that they use that's not used as just the gym coffee table? We had one for years. Speaking of Misfit, back in my Misfit days, we all used it like a ton when we first got it, and then where we positioned it in like the front corner of the gym, it ended up being like a laptop stand or coffee table or other things. And rarely did people use it because there was so much stuff piled on it at any given moment during the day. But it's pretty funny. All right, so that's part one. Let's go part two real quick. He's got an outdoor spot as well. I thought this was really cool. So he's got his outdoor gym also.
These rings set up here. I had a set of wood rings set up out here, but it was a bad idea. They got tore up by the weather. So I put these plastic rings.
How long did that take before they got whacked by the weather?
Few weeks of rainy season. It was dumb to have them out. Yeah. So
he had said that when he redid his backyard, he laid this concrete pad they're standing on, and he contacted Bill at Rogue to let him know he was doing this, and Bill sent him the same rig they used at the games, which I just think it's funny to look back at this because he's got a Infinity rig, and it's the same rig they were using at the games, and now they have Zeus and just like the most outrageous outfittings ever at the games, which is like super cool. So that's what they started with. Humble beginnings. I think most gyms even now have the Monster Light in there, the 3x3 post versus the 3x2. Just come such a long way in how we outfit stuff. Yeah, Corey got rid of his reverse hyper because it was a table. I know. It's a shame because I actually feel really good when I use reverse hyper regularly, but that's what it turns into for sure. We'll keep going here.
Those are actually the rings I had.
I'm going to get to my point here in a second.
Next to the, or
Still
for the dip.
usable.
Yeah.
So
use it
obviously,
for
if you
dips.
can't tell, Savan is the
Strap system.
cameraman
These
here.
are high enough to where I can actually jump up and
All right, so this was 13 years ago, as you can see here. The comments are what got me. I just watched this just for fun the other day. The comments killed me. Sounds like the cameraman dislikes and has contempt for Castro. I love the fact this cameraman is calling this fucker out in every stupid remark. I have respect for Dave. It's like you either like the cameraman or you like Dave. There was almost no in the middle with all this. Like the comments have nothing to do with the fact that he's got this like 2-part, really nice for 13 years ago, like super complete garage gym. There's no questions about what equipment they would need. There's no like,
if I wanted to practice kipping pull-ups with no 5.
there's nothing in the comments except either they hate the cameraman or they hate Dave, and they explain why that's the case. Like, so I think that's kind of funny because maybe they understand their dynamic, and I know Dave was on the camera quite a bit back in the day for a number of reasons. And I wonder if this sort of like back and forth, like banter was understood that they were going to generate a bunch of clicks and a bunch of comments and engagement, because there's over 100 comments of just their dynamic, nothing to do with the garage gym. I just thought that was so funny and really interesting, and how people play social media and how people play YouTube these days to try to get that engagement. And you see it all the way back in early CrossFit HQ stuff, and whether they realized they were doing it or not, or they just found out after the fact and then played into it, kind of funny. Anyway, so I figured I'd just start things off with a throwback like I used to do all the time, and then we'll talk about some of the more current things. All right. So what's going on with you guys? Let's get into the comments here real quick. CrossFit. I still remember visiting some affiliates with metal rings. Yeah, I had metal rings for a while, black ones, but then we'd throw tape around the ring. So you'd have like a spot that you'd hold. So there'd be like tape around the metal so you could grip it better. But then the tape would get nasty. It would get bloody. It would get dirty. And then you'd have to either retape, or people would just avoid those rings and go back to the wood anyway. Sevan was kind of faceless back then, wasn't he? Actually, no. Not really. If you go back to just like dig through the old archives, especially the games footage archives, even though he's filming a lot of it, he's also in a lot of it. Not only do you hear his voice, but he has plenty of scenes where he's like interviewing somebody and they're filming him filming an interview. So he was like pretty well known. Like I knew who he was just as well as I knew who any of the coaches or whatever, even way back in 2009, 2010 days of the CrossFit Games as they were just coming out. But I just don't think he definitely leaned into his personality back then too. But I just, now he's like one of the main characters, obviously. Follow script for the tape. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the tape was nice. Here's something. I don't know why this got me. So when I first started CrossFit, there was a lot of like raw steel bars out there, and not necessarily the awesome Spiel bars we have on our Rogue rigs now, but just like hanging whatever you could for pull-up bars. And then people would tape the hell out of the steel pull-up bars. And then again, the tape would get nasty or whatever else. But now that we have the powder coating and the Spiel bar and everything else, you really don't need tape on bars at all, unless you have some really weird situation going on. Maybe they're just worn down to hell. But it's so funny to see people like, I had a member who I really like this member, but he's just like getting into, he's probably like 2 years like serious into his CrossFit journey now. And I came in the gym one time. I have this brand new monster rig outside in the parking lot, and there's tape all around one of the pull-up bars, like just tape the hell out of it, the whole thing. And and anyone knows if you tape a powder coated bar, trying to get that off without like Goo Gone or something else, like ruins your bar. And I was like, jaw hit the ground after we had just spent whatever it cost for the monster rig. And then you can imagine what it cost to ship it out to Hawaii. Yeah, double the price of it basically. And yeah, tape on bars. Have you guys had anyone just throw tape on a random bar in a gym and be like, cool beans, that's fine, no big deal, no one's gonna mind? It's like the ultimate no these days, even though it used to be the standard back then. Just again, more throwback stuff. I started on a tape pull-up bar, and now if I see tape on a bar as a gym owner, I cringe. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, Corey, I'd be sick. Yeah, people don't realize like that stuff doesn't come off well. Even you have to like really clean that goo that comes off especially like the thumb tape or whatever people use. It's nasty. Barry, CrossFit King of Prussia just had plain metal bars. They still have that way? One of our first rigs with Misfit, again, that the topic came up, so now I don't mind talking about it a little bit. We had basically just a raw steel rig, and we kind of let it season itself. It got conditioned itself, and that thin layer of rust on the outside actually helped quite a bit with the grip, but you didn't really want to go without using grips or taping your hands back then. And you just let the bar kind of get super, super grippy. Oh, they still have them. They still have them. Yeah, I mean, if it's working, that gym's been around a long time, so works for them. That's fine. I don't know why I feel the urge to kind of like upgrade things like rigs. I feel like the rig is such a centerpiece of your gym. It's kind of like, I mean, obviously the most important thing is not your equipment. Equipment's important, but not the most important. But still, the rig for any bit of equipment is the centerpiece. When people come in, if you have a cool color of a rig, or the rig looks really clean, or you have all the attachments like the trawler and the rings and the rope and all this other stuff going on, like that can be a huge draw to someone's eye and attention, and just kind of makes the gym space look a little sexier. So I think like having one of those nice rigs, having the bigger, beefier posts like the 3x3s, I think is worth upgrading in your gym if you don't have it, just because of the look that it gives you. Yeah, well, any rig that old is going to be marinated in rust, sweat, and DNA for sure. Any rig that old from a gym that's been around that long is going to be beat. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of the topics I have in my thumbnail. Some of you may have seen this, which I think is pretty cool, but I figured I haven't talked about this at all yet publicly. So yeah, I got asked probably like 2-3 weeks ago now to be an analyst for World Fitness Project for at least their first tour stop in Indianapolis in about a little over a month away. And so I kind of asked, I didn't ask why me, because I actually didn't know why me. I don't know why they picked me, to be honest with you. I'm flattered, but I don't know. Out of everyone they could have picked to do this, I don't know why it was me. Anyway, I asked kind of what my role would be. Like, what am I going to offer a show with like a professional sports host to past games champions and me? It's kind of a weird it's kind of a weird dynamic, right? So I'm not sure what the dynamic's going to be like. I'm kind of excited for it, but anyway, they asked me, I said, what do you want from me? And they basically said they wanted somebody who had extensive coaching experience with CrossFit Games athletes, but wasn't really coaching many or any at this point in time, which maybe I'm the only one that falls into that category. Again, going back to the Misfit days, I spent 10 years basically obsessing over the sport of CrossFit, and we probably had a couple dozen individual athletes qualify for the games, probably a couple hundred or in regionals over those years. And so, yeah, I had a lot of time coaching and programming for that level. And then basically since COVID, that's just completely died off, and my focus has become more the everyday competitor and people within my gyms, things like that. So definitely my focus had been off the super high level elites and more to that middle of the road group who want to be competitive, but also have lives and everything else. So at first I was like, that's interesting. And I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. And then I thought, you know what? I have all this experience, all this knowledge I had built up over 10 years that I'm not using about, training elite athletes or whatever. And they want the perspective from a coach's perspective. Like, how would you get somebody ready for this? How would you strategize for this? Like, what did you think about execution on this? And I was like, okay, that kind of is right down the middle for me. I don't have any other outlets to talk about that stuff because it's just not where my focus is these days. So I thought it'd be pretty cool to take it on, give it a shot. So I'm doing that first tour stop. I'm going to see how it goes. Hopefully I think it's going to be fun no matter what. I'm very, very interested to see how the World Fitness Project pans out. Like, I know there's a lot of people who are very strongly for it. A lot of people who are kind of against it because they feel this like loyalty, so to speak, to the CrossFit Games season and HQ and all that. Look, there's lots of competitions that we all support throughout the years. Wadapalooza, Granite Games was big. Lots of non-CrossFit sanctioned events that our elites went to and do well at. To me, this is, it's another spinoff of that who's trying to take it to another level. I want to see what happens. I want to see how it pans out. I want to see how it plays. So I'm definitely excited for it. My expectations are just like whatever happens kind of happens. I'm going to prepare for it. I'm going to be really like, if I agree to do something like this, I'm going to be on my A game. So like, I'm going to do my research ahead of time. I don't know the workouts yet. When they release the workouts to me, I'll have everything broken down thoroughly. I'll have, information on all the athletes. So I'm going to take it super serious and have a lot of fun with it and see kind of how it goes. But yeah, that's going to be my role. Yeah. Did no one else answer your calls? So I know I wasn't first choice, but I know that whoever they had asked before me couldn't do it or was basically in conflict. I think they asked a coach who had an athlete or two who are actually in this, and they didn't want a conflict of a coach who is biased towards their own athletes. So I think one coach was selected and then they realized it wasn't a good fit and then they moved on to me. Senior analyst. Yeah, I don't know. I'm rookie analyst, basically. I mean, I can talk about the CrossFit Games stuff, and I can talk about World Fitness Project, and I can talk about any other elite level competition forever. But as far as like putting it together in a cohesive show with everybody, it's new to me. So it's gonna be cool. Emma, are you gonna test any of the semifinal WODs yourself? I'll probably do a couple of them, but I'm not a semifinals athlete, so I'm gonna scale. I'm gonna scale them quite a bit. I have a lot of athletes who are going to be taking it on. Just I assume you're talking about the age group that just came out. I have a couple who are good enough that are just not participating because they're focused on other events for whatever reason this year, who will probably try some, give me some feedback, but I don't know if it'll be in time. I've been talking to a few athletes online just about basic strategy, order of the events, things like that. So if you want to reach out to me online, I'll share with you what I've been putting together. And a lot of it actually made a pretty long post on a live post on the Jump Ship Instagram as well. Semifinal. Yeah, I could do probably the female weights respectably well, but beyond that, you would not want my scores. They would not be worth anything. So beyond that, yeah, like I said, I've been away since January. I had my first child born in December. So I have a brand new baby daughter named Josie. She's been probably the most fun thing that I've ever got to experience. So my first kid. And so, yeah, I just backed away from doing shows for a while. Very hard to schedule them around her and my work schedule and my wife's work schedule and everything else. And so now we're back doing this. And that's been the biggest challenge of getting back on this and focusing on work and everything. And with her being here and basically, Danny does most of the caretaking because I have to go to the gyms. My focus has been on work stuff, not being online. And so most of my time lately has been spent actually at my gyms. And I find this to be really like a refreshing 4 or 5 months of work at the gyms. One of the things I've been focusing the most on in a couple of my affiliates is one-on-one clients. So training one-on-ones is something that I had done very sporadically over the last 15 years. If somebody's a little nervous, they want to do CrossFit, but they don't really know how to start. They don't want to jump into class. Maybe we don't have a beginner's program running right at that point. They do one-on-ones. And so I've always played it as like a like an intro, like an on ramp to getting into class. But very rarely did I have a long term client that wanted to just be trained like all the time. They didn't have any interest in class and didn't really know what they wanted out of fitness. And so up at my North Shore gym in particular, there happened to be a increase in demand for one-on-ones, and most of these people are older clientele. So I actually have like about a half dozen athletes who are either in their late 50s all the way up to their early 70s. And so the last 4 or 5 months, basically I've been 3 4 hours a day, 3 4 clients a day of just working with these athletes. Yeah, they're athletes now. People who have basically lost a lot of their function and they're coming back. They're realizing a little bit later in life that they should have put more time into their health and wellness. And a lot of them I get my hands on. Basically, they've had different trainers in the past. They've tried working out at home. But then when you do real basic stuff with them, like try to teach an air squat, it's not there. So you're teaching a box squat to about a third of the depth, and they're even having trouble coming out of that. So once you start watching a move and realize their balance is very challenging, they don't have squatting abilities, their hinging ability is, or at least their awareness. A lot of them can hinge okay, but their awareness of like positions is pretty bad. So I've just been taking basically hours and hours and hours of my day correcting these people and helping them gain their mobility back. Gain their function back. And it's been, again, probably some of the most rewarding training that I've done since I started training athletes back in 2006 or seven. So coming up on 20 years now of working with athletes. And yeah, I've had plenty of like older population people in classes. But usually if they come to class, they have some function and some ability already. So it's been really fun to be like, okay, you can't lunge, you can't stand up off the floor. So let's fix that. You can't squat, you can't sit low enough to get into certain seats and then stand yourself up out of it. Let's fix that. So all those sort of things have been awesome. And then their feedback to me and their like joy when they get their first time standing up on their own off the floor and they tell me they haven't done it in 10 years, like that has been beating the reward that I felt back in the day from working with elites and getting somebody, through regionals to the CrossFit Games. Like that was, extreme excitement for me back in 2014, 15, 16, all those years, like really great. But to see someone's life actually change who thought they were kind of basically going to be relying on others for the rest of the time they were alive to being like, wow, I can get this back. I can get my life back is, it's been great. It's been kind of reinvigorating for me in the fitness space. And it's been a huge focus. Corey, congrats, dude. Being a dad's the best. It is the best. I didn't know what I was missing until I had my little baby, and yeah, I can't. It seems like she's been with me forever now already. It's only been 4 months, but yeah, it is the best. It's crazy because you can't think back of anything before she entered the world. Yeah, I was just saying that. That's funny you say that. It's true. So this is a great comment too. I used to complain just because it's kind of how I vented. I don't know. Yeah. I just used to complain about like, I have no time. I'm at my gyms. I'm working on the online stuff. I was doing more live streams back in the day, 4 months ago, and just, running around putting out fires essentially. When you have 5 affiliates, like my wife and I do, even though we have really good partners at most of them, we still have a lot of little jobs to do. Things break, issues happen. Disgruntled members send bad emails of things you have to deal with, like just stuff comes up, right? So you're always putting out little fires on top of your normal work. I always felt super, super busy. And then when Danny got pregnant, we were like, oh, wow, this is going to be interesting. We already feel like we're working 12 hours a day each. And now we're going to have to take care of a baby by ourselves. We don't have any family out here in Hawaii with us. So it's just us. And then she came along, and the first few months were stressful, but in a good way, like not complaining about it. And then now, she just turned 4 months like 2 days ago. And yeah, I can't remember why I thought I was busy before I had her. And I can't remember how I even planned or scheduled anything before she was here. So it's it's all consuming now. It's like, again, not complaining now. It's totally cool. But yeah, the perception of what it was like before is gone, if that makes sense. Emma. So actually, Danny has been working quite a bit on this kind of herself. I think she kept track of all her workouts while she was pregnant, and she did like 100 days in a row of an hour of working out. Some days it was a long walk, some days it was some training, and she kept track of most of that, I think. And she's been definitely working her way back in the last month or so in the gym, and I think she's keeping track of that. And she's definitely trying to post a little bit on social media about the way she's scaling and modifying things to just kind of give people ideas. And there's a lot of people out there who have pre and postnatal like workout programs, but yeah, she's just giving like her experience through social media a little bit, which is different for her because she typically doesn't post that much. So you can check it out there. I don't know if she'll ever turn it into a program, but she's definitely trying to share a little bit. Corey, you thought coaching was tough? It was just getting you prepared for fatherhood. Honestly, I never thought coaching was tough. I like coaching. Sometimes the personalities with some of the bigger athletes could be challenging, but that's I mean, that is part of coaching. Don't get me wrong, but that's more like relationship stuff, like how you get along with somebody, how you encourage somebody, how you tell somebody the honest truth and have them not lose it. Like that's all right. Coaching movement, seeing movement, writing workouts, that's easy. But yeah, fatherhood, oh my. I feel more responsible for something than I've ever felt in my whole life. And so yeah, there won't be any typos in my daughter's program for life. That's for sure. Teaching, seeing, correcting. Yeah, you're referring to coaching, you're referring to parenting. There'll be a lot of that. All right, Rambler. All right. We didn't get into it yet. We can get into it briefly. I'll spend 4 or 5 minutes on it. Why I left Misfit. In a nutshell, we had started from a simple garage. We were obsessed with the early CrossFit games, the ranch days in Romus, and we basically put ourselves out there. This is 2009. I had just gotten into CrossFit 2008. And my obsession started immediately. And then 2009, yeah, we just kind of we started working out hard ourselves. I was never training for anything. I don't think myself or any of my Misfit partners were really training for high level. They trained for fun, but we kind of put it out there. Hey, there's not a lot of resources over here in Maine. We're trying to get as much of this information together as we can, as fast as we can, and we want to work with anyone who wants to work with us. And so people just started coming into our garage, literally at a house, and started to train with us. That quickly got out of control, and we got a 3,000 square foot industrial space down the road, and that kind of grew out of control quickly too. And we had people reaching out to us from all over. Once we launched our first blog, where we were posting our workout of the day every day before we were even charging for programming. We did this for free for years and years and years. People from all over the country and all over the world were reaching out, asking for help, feedback, video review, all that stuff. This was early as, competitive CrossFit was just growing. This was back before Mayhem was a thing, back before CompTrain was a thing. It was I think it was us. I think people were still going to CrossFit New England for workouts, literally off their blog. Invictus was around. I'm trying to think what else. And then Outlaw was around. It may have been basically, I might be forgetting somebody, but before Proven, before HWPO, obviously, before Matt Fraser had even stepped into a CrossFit gym, we were doing this stuff. So anyway, a lot of people came to us, and because we were kind of one of the first to the market, we got popular really quick, and we had these pockets all over the country. It just kind of grew and grew and grew. Anyway, so our gyms grew, our online business grew, we added more staff. It just kind of grew a bit out of control. But when we started it, we were young. We were like early 20s, didn't know anything about business, never set up our business to be structured or successful, or didn't know how to build an operating agreement. So we were just like kids who wanted to train athletes, and it got out of control. We focused on the coaching side of things and not so much on the long-term business plan. And even as things grew and we tried to make adjustments, it was never perfect. And so it just got to a point, I think, after about 10 years, that myself and other owners just started really seeing things differently in terms of the direction the business should go, how money should be spent, how things should be handled, and it just resentment grew within the organization, and I was probably the odd man out in terms of my vision for what I wanted to see get done, how I wanted to see money get spent, how what I wanted the focus of the business to be on. And so a lot of fault goes to me in this, but I started to remove myself from a lot of the situations going on there. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I couldn't deal with what I was, in my opinion, what I was seeing was the business like falling apart. And I thought we were just missing out on our potential. And again, this is just my perception, not necessarily what was happening. It was my perception. And so I just eventually had said, hey, look, I'm going to go take over an affiliate elsewhere in the country. I'll make it a separate Misfit gym if that's what we need to do, but we have to work separately. We can't jam ourselves all together in this little office and get along anymore. It's just not going to work, even though the business is still rolling. So it was agreed to that. I moved, took over an affiliate in Deerfield Beach in Florida, which was a really cool experience. And then basically the second I got down there, they called me and had a large 5-on-1 firing. And so I got kicked out of my own company that I started. And there was a long battle. The battle ended maybe like a year or so later, a little longer. COVID really dragged that out, unfortunately. And then moved on, started Jump Ship. That's where the name Jump Ship comes from. I just needed to put something. They refused to make an announcement that I had left. They tried to hide it because they knew how many people would leave with me, because I wrote all the programming for the whole time that Misfit was there. I coached most of the athletes, so they tried to keep it as quiet as possible so everyone wouldn't have like some mass exit from them. And so the Jump Ship name was a little dig at that. And that's basically it. So I got fired and frozen out from my own company, moved on, started Jump Ship, and frankly, it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me professionally. So learned a lot. Definitely don't make those same business mistakes again. And now, I've seen all the worst decisions you can make with a lot of good decisions you can make. And now my wife and I have, systems in place to run businesses. And that's how we can run 5 affiliates, some of them remotely, some of them with partners, but we just have policies and systems and weight structures in place to make it work. And that's how we do it. So you graduated to an adult in a lot of ways. Yeah. It took a lot of, honestly, it was a big awakening. Hard lessons were learned for sure. Definitely hard lessons were learned. There's obviously a lot more to that story, and there's 2 sides to it too. It's easy for me to just like point fingers and say shit about what I didn't like, but I'm sure there's plenty of things about the way I wanted things done that they didn't like, or the way, I handled things. So it goes both ways, but it had to end. It had to end. And again, I'm better off for it. Barry McCockiner. A few of my friends use Jump Ship and love it. That's what I'm here for. That's what I like. So yeah, I mean, writing programming was my first draw as a coach. Oh, sorry. I'll get back to you in a second, Emma. Writing programming itself was like, my brain is a very like logical math brain. I can't spell simple words. I can't write elegantly at all, but my brain is very logical in terms of like sequencing, just putting stuff together. So programming, especially in a GPP format, makes really good sense to me. It allows me to really dial in, allows me to balance things, heavy to light, high rep to low rep, long to short, mix in skills. And so that is like a big puzzle that my brain works on. And so early on, when I was figuring out how to do this, back before anyone knew how to do it correctly beyond CrossFit.com, 2009, 2010, it was just a puzzle that my brain worked on constantly refining, constantly figure out what worked, what did work, what was too much, what was not enough. And so, yeah, now that I do Jump Ship, I've used all the 10 years of trial and error of programming on high level to regular affiliate level athletes. And now I just have this very like concise dose that I put out regularly. And I think I'll write the Jump Ship 90 forever. It's such a fun little project to try to encompass so much into such a short training window each day, just 5 days a week. And I've got a lot of good feedback on it over the 5 years we've had it going on. So with that, I try to make little extra offerings, but that's going to be the bread and butter forever is the jump ship 90. Emma, curious how you structure your year of programming to target certain benchmarks, expectations without strength cycles. This is a great question. I only have about 9 minutes left, guys, but I'll do as much as I can in the next 9 minutes. Excellent question. So the structure of the year is GPP, general physical preparedness. So we have people all over the world that follow Jump Ship that have all different competition plans. And so they may or may not be participating in the game season. They might just be trying to get good for a local competition, or they might want to do Wodapalooza. They've always wanted to compete there, so they want to qualify there. And so I don't program any cycles because they need to be ready at different points at time all the time without dialing in a specific program for themselves, right? This is just a general template offering if you follow the 90. It's supposed to encompass everything, but it's not specific to anybody. So strength in particular, here's my thought on strength. To get strong, you need to be consistent with moving weights, but you need to move both, lighter weights for speed and heavier weights for weight. And when you lift light weights for speed, you get a central nervous system response. When you lift heavy weights, squat, deadlift, bench, whatever, you get a central nervous system response. And the more aggressive that is, the stronger the strength adaptation can be. And so when you start programming very specific cycles with things like percentages, or use any of the old weightlifting templates you can get online and just plug it into a CrossFit program, what ends up happening is the volume and intensity from a lot of your CrossFit Metcons, which are typically the priority because you get the most bang for your buck there, end up interfering really badly with your ability to either complete some sort of percentage-based weightlifting template or progress at the same level you want because your recovery is not where it needs to be. So instead of that, we still prioritize the all-encompassing Metcon where you have, long, short, heavy, light, skill, all that stuff built in there. And that's the main balance. But the strength needs to go with that. So it needs to be in line with that. It can't just be in addition to that. It has to be with it. And so what you do is you use similar patterns from the same day that are already primed, warmed up, range of motion's good. And you give them a varying dose of heavy lifting. It can just be like every 2.5 minutes or 15 minutes, you're going to do 3 deadlifts. So now I know I have a 6x3 and a deadlift, which is a very common rep scheme or set of sets of deadlifts. And if I have 2.5 minutes, I know that I have over 2 minutes rest between each set, which is good enough to probably work myself up to 90% plus of my best triple and maybe even a PR if I'm feeling good. And the other thing, like I just said, that happens when you don't have super rigid structure is you allow athletes to strike when the iron's hot, push a little harder on the days they feel good, or the days they're under recovered or not feeling as good. They can just kind of turn it down. They can still move and get that regular, consistent dose of weightlifting, but they're not under any sort of pressure or rule to hit a certain percentage or a certain weight that's inappropriate for them to hit that day. Either it causes injury or it causes them to become more fatigued or more worn out, and then they're in this perpetual under recovered state and they're always living at this 70-80% effort. And that's what we see a lot of in some of the more complex programs out there, the full-on competitive programs that take 2, 3, 4 hours a day to complete. It's not that athletes can't get through them, it's that most athletes can't survive them because their recovery doesn't match what they need to put into it to get something out of it. So they just end up getting worn down over and over again. Whereas if you just program some very general strength work and allow athletes to move up and down the weights based on how they're feeling at that time in that session, then you're going to be able to give them enough dose to get stronger quite easily. And you will make sure that they have more control over making sure, hey, I'm not having a great day. I need to probably rest a little bit so tomorrow I can hit it a little stronger. There's no pressure to live in this under recovered, beat up state. You can just kind of dial that up or down as needed. So that's how I program strength. I've had like crazy success with that. People are finding that, the cool thing is, when you have more opportunities to PR because you're feeling good one day and you just say, oh, we're doing, power clean on the minute, ladder style, building up. Wow, this is feeling so good. I just hit a 15-pound PR on my power clean. Great. Now you know what your new ceiling is, right? So now it raises your expectation for yourself a little bit for future sessions. And again, you may have a similar ladder or something else later on, and you're like, wow, the barbell feels so heavy today. And you just know, okay, today's not my day. I back it off. I'm not going to beat myself up. So just making sure that I give out an appropriate balance and dose of these different movements and patterns they need, with a balance of, singles, doubles, triples, all the way to sets of 10. And we're going to be starting a 20 rep max here with our new extras next week. Like, that's just going to be enough to get people where they need to go, in conjunction with also doing your Metcons and your other stuff as well. That's a long answer, but this is how I think. Any follow-up questions to that? Hi, Don. Welcome in. Welcome in. Don, if you didn't hear, I'm going to be doing this show every Thursday morning that I can, unless something crazy comes up. But most Thursday mornings, 7 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time, which right now is 10 a.m. Pacific Standard, which is 1 p.m. East Coast. It's very confusing for me to keep up with this because Hawaii does not do daylight savings time, but most of the rest of the country does. And then I have my Arizona gym. They also don't do daylight savings time. So I'm always 3 hours apart from them. But when they change it at a certain point in the year, then I'm only 2 hours from California, but I'm figuring it out. Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Bubba. Yeah, the 1.5 speed. I mean, I talk a little fast sometimes as it is, but if you can handle that, I'm all for it. Be efficient with your time. Dawn, the sleep's great. I got to give it up to Danny. She does a lot of the caretaking at night. I change the diapers. She does the feeding. She carries the brunt of it. I'm not going to lie, but I'm doing okay. Sleep is okay. You could ask Danny that question. Maybe she'll give you a different answer, but things are going good. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up in 2 minutes. Any last thoughts? Any last questions? Went over quite a bit today. Again, future shows are going to have wildly different topics, pretty much all fitness related, but in completely different areas of things. But yeah, this is going to be my normal block. So if you guys want to, follow, subscribe on YouTube and put on notifications, I'll try to schedule these ahead of time, and you'll know it's coming. Yeah, Corey, last thing I'll wrap up with. Thank you for bringing that up. Pump Ship is our little play on bodybuilding with a little bit of a aerobic conditioning built in. So Pump Ship is coming on the Jump Ship Crew program, which you can actually check out with this little QR code here in the bottom right corner. It's 30-minute session, 30-minute workout typically. A lot of EMOMs, a lot of AMRAPs, a lot of every 3-minute sort of things. And it has a mix of more hypertrophy type movements, bench press, some curls, some dips, pull-ups, things like that, simpler movements, less super heavy barbell, basically made to be able to be done with a pair of dumbbells at home if you need to or whatever. And yeah, it a little more hypertrophy focus mixed with some conditioning, a lot less skill, a lot less super heavy weight. Like I said, 30-minute session, and it's built in line with the 90. So the movement patterns are similar. So like Corey says, the days he can't make it to the gym, he can just pull up the Pump Ship version of it and still get a 30-minute workout in, which, let's be honest, guys, that's all anyone in the whole world needs in a day is a hard 30-minute workout. That's like plenty. And you can push it as hard as you want to push that. And all you need is usually a dumbbell, kettlebell, something simple, and you can make it happen. So that's going to be included in the crew membership. So you can do the 90 or the Pump Ship. And of course, we still have a one extra. It's going to be one extra piece 3 times a week. And that is going to have some specific focus. And you follow it if it fits what you need. It's going to be a 20 rep max back squat starting out. We're going to do that probably 10 to 12 weeks, 2 to 3 times a week. You're going to do that. And we're going to play with it and see who can get the highest percentage of gains across those 10, 12 weeks. It'll be pretty fun. I'm doing it myself because my back squat's pathetic. So I'm going to try to build up some volume in my legs and see how I can handle that. But yeah, thanks to everybody who tuned in today. Appreciate it. Yeah, that killed everybody for sure. We will be back next week, same time, new show, new topics. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you guys later.